Let's preview the 2026 MLB season. The Dodgers versus the world, or are the Dodgers the world? My picks and predictions for the upcoming season. This is Kent, and this is Fanatically Speaking. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're going to get into the MLB 2026 season. This time, a preview and get into all what's coming up for the season outside of the free agents and the trades that I talked about in the last episode. But a little more, not so much in depth, but looking at teams, players, who's real, who's not real, who do I think's going to, make that run, take a step back. And then again, we got this whole thing with the Dodgers and MLB and where are we going with this and are they ever going to fix it? I don't know. That's not for this episode, but I do want to look into it. So right off the gate, getting into kind of what I talked about last episode was the Atlanta Braves. So with this preview, looking at teams, looking at players, the Atlanta Braves, that was the question I asked last episode. Will they bounce back or will they stay underperforming? At the moment, as of right now, this recording here in March, I'm waiting. Do they have another move up their sleeve? We talked about their injuries. We talked about the Profar suspension. And it's a lot is going to ride on, do they just go with the guys they have? And do those guys, are they going to have to overperform so they don't underperform? I'm really on the fence because I want to say they have a culture, they have a history of competing. They still have a really good roster. So again, last year taken down by injuries, underperforming by most of their stars. And now, again, Walt Weiss is there. So what do they do? You're going to have to get the most out of Chris Sale, the most out of Spencer Strider, and then whatever else you can get out of the other pitchers, who are not Schwellenbach, right? And then do they make a move now or during the season? Do they just wait to see where they're at, then make a trade for another pitcher? We shall see. I do think they bounce back a little. The Miami Marlins, one of those teams who overperformed last year with, I always call guys no names because they're guys that are just, you'd be like, who is that? Who are on their roster and how are they winning baseball games? So the Marlins did really well last year. They finished above the Braves. So the Braves were fourth in the NL East. I don't think that will be the case. I have a hard time thinking they can jump the Mets and Phillies, but I do think they could sneak into, like the wild card. But that's for later on in this episode. But that's a huge question going into the season is the Atlanta Braves. I mean, they're a constant, right? They're always up there in the top of the East. Now they've been taken over by the Phillies. The Mets are spending, doing a lot. And the Mets themselves is another question mark. Because what do we know about the New York Mets in the last 20, 25 years, right? They made the one World Series run there, losing to the Royals. But when they've had these stack rosters, these big name guys, they normally choke. So with all their signings, all their moves that, again, last episode, we got into the, you went out, you got Bo Bichette, you made some trades to, you traded Nemo for Simeon, you brought in Devin Williams, Jorge Polanco, Luke Weaver. You also got Freddie Peralta to add to that rotation. The Mets have really, to me, they are one team that really don't have an excuse. I don't even know if it's playoffs or bust. I think they need to win the NL East. All the spending they did. We talked about the Phillies. They brought back guys like Real Muto and Schwarber and then just added Alex Garcia and subtracted Nick Castellanos. But you still have that strong rotation outside of losing, Ranger Suarez. But they're still pretty decent there. So, but I would expect the Mets with everything they've done, all eyes on Soto, Lindor. I know they lost Alonso, but I just named who they added. So I think that they can. I think they can win the NL East. It's just, again, let's hold our breath and see if the New York Mets choke again like they always do in recent memory. Other teams, previewing, looking at, are the Yankees a serious contender? I asked that question. I mean, you're getting Garrett Cole back to add to Max Fried, to add to Rodon, but that's all you got, which in hindsight, I talked about this again also, that they needed to add maybe another pitcher or just another star. Like, is Goldschmidt enough as he's aging? He still put up a solid season. Is Cody Bellinger the answer? They did bring him back. What are you doing at shortstop? Is Stanton going to be healthy? These were question marks for the Yankees, and I know that I said they were one of my losers because I felt like they should have added a big name, spin like the Dodgers, and they didn't because they are the Yankees, and they feel like they get so close. They did tie with the Blue Jays for the division, but then they're in and out. And you've got Aaron Judge. You have, again, one of the top two players in the game. You should be not just making World Series, in which you lost to the Dodgers a few years back, but you should be winning World Series. Maximize your time while we're watching one of the greatest baseball players we've ever seen, and human being, physical specimens in Aaron Judge, right? So let's not waste this time, especially if you're Yankee fans. I know I'm not the biggest, but I do like Aaron Judge. I'm a Stanton fan too. But I want to see, are they serious contenders? And can they get, can you get another season like Max Fried had, though he did fizzle late in the playoffs? Again, he is a Braves hero, World Series hero, but got to be, when you put on those pinstripes, it's a different type of hero you got to be. And the Jays will be back, and we'll get into all this again. I think the Orioles will be better. The Red Sox, I don't know. I don't know if they get back. They're still solid. I just don't like the additions to their subtractions. But we shall see. Again, a very competitive AL East, as it always is. But when I say Yankees serious contenders, it's, can the Yankees win the World Series? And that goes for their pitching. That goes for the positions that I pointed out. And Aaron Boone, how long and how many more chances does he get? How long is that leash? And this season may be telling for him. A couple other teams to watch out for this season. I look at one of those teams I just talked about, the Toronto Blue Jays. They kind of came out of nowhere to win the AL East and then made the magical run to the World Series. Can they recreate that magic? And another team who was right there with them, almost made it, was the Seattle Mariners. Can they recreate that magic that they had last year? Because I don't think we saw that, right? We didn't see that coming from Cal Raleigh. We didn't see that coming from the Blue Jays. We talk about the Blue Jays, they try to get guys and they missed out on some big free agents, but then they just balled out as a team. Guys you never heard of, now because they were on the national stage in the World Series, damn near beat the Dodgers, the super team. So now we know Toronto. Well, we knew Vlad Guerrero Jr., we knew George Springer from his time in Houston, and he was finally performing that big money contract he got from Toronto. Bo Bichette, the up-and-comer, now he's in New York. So can they recreate it? I'm going to talk about them later, though. Mariners, again, can they bounce back and do what they did last year in a division in the AL West that has been owned by the Houston Astros? It's even been, the Texas Rangers have been right there. And the Mariners came out on top. They fought, they battled, and they won that division. And again, almost made the World Series. So do we get that again? That's another question as I, look into this upcoming season, these are teams that have caught my eye. Surprise teams that could contend. And maybe some of these are not surprises, but when you look at the Texas Rangers, a 500 team last year, third in the West, a few years removed from a World Series title, can they get right there again? Again, they've spent the money. Can they get a full season out of DeGrom? Now they got Skip Schumacher as their manager, who was solid in Miami. Now he's got a full actual baseball team. How do they look? The Cincinnati Reds, they made the wild card. Can they make another step up? I think they could. They got Suarez now, big bat. They're still there with Francona, De La Cruz. They're going to compete, but again, in that Central, the Brewers are a staple. The Cubs are better. They got Bregman now. It's going to be tough for them. And again, my predictions will come later. But I expect the Reds again. Are they a surprise team? I think if they're a surprise team to contend again, I think last year they were definitely a surprise. So I think it could be a surprise that they do it back-to-back seasons. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they had an off year, but they went out, made some moves. They got some pitching. They made the deal for Arenado, so you get the veteran. You got, you pick up Soroka, solid arm. You keep Zach Gallen. That was huge. Still got Merrill Kelly. Brought in Carlos Santana for a bat. So I think they'll be right there. I think they do get right back in that mix in the West. But again, another tough division. The mighty Dodgers, the San Diego Padres have been obviously they're one of the top teams in the NL. The Giants, we talked about their moves with the Reyes and Bader, still have a solid team. So it will be tough for the Diamondbacks, but I think they could, if you see a team make a jump, get back to where they were, I think it could be them. Mentioned the Giants. I think they could, again, get back to where they were a few seasons ago, right in contention in that division, wild card, all of that. The other surprise team is another team who had a down year in the Baltimore Orioles. And I talked about them. They've got a lot of young players, but they did go out, spend the big money to get Pete Alonso, that big bat in the middle of the lineup, the veteran leadership. The Mets will miss that. Now the Orioles have that. The question is that enough to jump over from last season, the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Blue Jays? I think they'll be right there. I think they're going to be more contending with those wild card teams. It's, can you bump the Tigers, Guardians, Astros, Mariners, whoever is going to be in that mix for that wild card? Can the Orioles sneak in with that, 4, 5, 6 games above 500 record? And I think they could, because they were in the playoffs. They were there before. Had a step back. Can they get back there? I think Alonso's really, really going to help that team. So those are the teams that I'm looking at previewing. Some players to watch, and there's no rhyme or reason. Well, there is a rhyme or reason that I picked them, but it's not like this is like a shock. These are not shock players, this, that, and the other. It's just, what am I looking at? The first one I just named. I am definitely watching Pete Alonso in Baltimore. Does he continue to smash the baseball just like he did in New York? And does he carry the Orioles to that next level? I think I think truthfully, one, he wanted the contract. I think two, he gave the Mets one more year after bringing in Soto, making big moves, and they still, they missed the playoffs. So I think he was just kind of over it and was just like, yeah, this is my time to go and try something else. The spot was there in Baltimore. They gave him the contract. I'm definitely watching him, as I mentioned before. As I mentioned also in another episode, the previous one, Ronald Acuna Jr., obviously looking for the extension, looking for big money, but in coming years. But I'm watching him to see if he returns to that MVP form, to that 40-70 type of season? And can he lead the Atlanta Braves? As I talked about before as well, they need a leader. They need someone to lead. He is a lead by example with putting up huge numbers and leading your team. And I definitely want to watch him this year to have a hopefully full, healthy season and return to that MVP form. Juan Soto, another guy to watch, his second year in New York with the Mets. Can he get them in the playoffs? Can he lead the Mets now with all of their offseason changes and moves and get them to that next level? Just get them in, have a chance. We shall see. Again, the Braves, I think, will return to some type of contention. The Mets, again, will they choke? Soto is a name to watch. I think not only just a watch here, but maybe in that MVP race. I'm also watching a legend in Mike Trout. In recent years, he's been injured. He's been out, unavailable. It's costing him stats. It's costing him numbers. Obviously, he's bulked that up early in his career, as you know, and at the time was the greatest player in the game. And call it old age, call it wear and tear, call it carrying a trash franchise that has never given him winning ways. Even when they had Shohei Ohtani with him, they have been unable to deliver. They have no shortage of money. And I guess the Angels would be a good example of, just because you spend the money on certain things doesn't mean you're going to win. You got to spend it on the right things and have the right person leading the team. But all that to say, I do look for him just to stay healthy, to continue his climb towards historic numbers so he can just walk in the Hall of Fame. I think he will anyways. But if you really dig deep into his numbers, again, Hall of Fame voters, you never know what they're looking at. Sometimes they're blind to numbers. They just get, they get little, I don't know what it's called, googly eyes for, a couple of years of good play. And then they think, oh, well, yeah, he's such a good guy and he played well for 5 years. Trout has had a long career. He has been great. I do think he's a Hall of Famer. I just think that he missed out on really some probably record-setting numbers that he could have had if he wasn't injured in recent years. Another guy, not that he needs to be an MVP conversation, but Bryce Harper, just to look like an MVP, look like the best player on the team, look like the old Bryce Harper or the Bryce Harper that the Phillies signed. Again, nagging, a few nagging injuries, but the guy's a team player. He's meant to play in Philly. He switched positions. He does whatever's needed. I don't like the negative talk from the front office. What else can you get from a guy that got to the World Series? I know they didn't win. They're always in contention. I know Philly's a tough spot to play. So, yeah, definitely looking at him to see, can he return to that form or whatever form, they're looking at for him to be. Other players to look at is the kind of the Japanese flow to the MLB this season. There's 3 big names, and hopefully I don't butcher them. I try to do my best in pronouncing these. Tatsuya Amaya, right? Astros. Yeah, I think I butchered it. But a big arm for the Astros. They needed that. Munetaka Murakami to the White Sox. White Sox were not a good team, one of the worst teams. So they get a huge, huge player and hitter in Murakami. And those Toronto Blue Jays, losing Bichette, but then adding Kazuma Okamoto, and again, another big bat. And he's added to those American League champion Toronto Blue Jays. So as always, if it's not Ohtani and Yamamoto and, guys like that, when the Japanese players make the move, it's always exciting to see how they do, in the major leagues. And of course, as I mentioned, a couple of those players that have made the move, they initially or eventually made their way to LA. Those LA Dodgers, they have Yamamoto, they have Ohtani, and they have a whole lot more. Yes, so the Los Angeles Dodgers, they are villain number one, right? Public enemy number one in the baseball world. They are collecting talent like you're playing a video game, it seems like. They're back to back champions. They are just ruining free agency if you're a fan for some teams, right? If you're a fan of teams and your team gets named as a potential suitor for the biggest free agent, you think maybe you have a chance, right? The Blue Jays thought they had a chance with Shohei Ohtani, and here come the Dodgers. The Phillies thought they had a chance with Kyle Tucker. The Mets thought they had a chance with Kyle Tucker, and the Dodgers swoop in and take them to add to their already loaded roster. That loaded roster, well, it's going to look like this. It's going to look like Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Pages, Edman. Their pitching staff of Yamamoto, Snell, Ohtani, Glasnow, Sasaki, closer, and Edwin Diaz. I mean, you tell me where the weakness is in that lineup. I am just like I said, it does bother me that they sign everyone, but I get it, right? It is one of those things that you look at and you say, okay, could these other owners, do the same thing? The Dodgers are deferring money, and they're paying them not right now, but obviously putting it in the future, which is one way to do it. They have these television contracts, so they're doing their money the right way to make these things work, and then the players come over because they want to win. It's kind of stacking, but it's not, because it is within the rules. There's no cheating going on. It is similar, I guess, to the Miami Heat when they signed LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. They made it work. They had the cap space, and the guys took less money to want to win. That's what we're dealing with right now. I also compare it to the Yankees spending money back in the day, getting everybody whatever cost. Steinbrenner always would do whatever to buy and get the top players to New York. So the Dodgers are doing the same thing, but they got high character guys. I mean, I get mad. I don't really root for them. I root sometimes for the players. But again, how can you not like Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman? It's hard not to like them. They're high character guys. They just go out and play baseball at the highest level. They do it the right way. It's kind of, you're like stuck in the middle because, again, they are just, they're just so good that you hate that your team, which, again, as I flip back, as I keep saying the last episode, pains me that they got Freddie Freeman because the Braves had just, slayed the Dragon of the Dodgers to win a World Series, and then they let, the Dragon get Freeman. As all these teams, the Red Sox, stupid enough to trade Mookie Betts to the Dodgers, right? I can't, Ohtani, he chose there. Tucker chose there. Freeman chose there too, but he chose there because the place he had been told him basically, buy a piece. Thanks for your MVP. Thanks for your World Series, and we'll see you later. But yeah, it really does. For fans, it's not fun. But again, I get it. And it does feel like it's the Dodgers versus the world. But again, if you listen to those names that I put out there, it's kind of like the Dodgers are the world. They're getting players from everywhere, and they are the world. So it's kind of the Dodgers versus the rest of the league, in which I saw a very it's kind of a funny meme, whatever you want to call it, image. Someone put out there that the All-Star game this year should be basically the Dodgers versus the rest of the NL and AL All-Stars. Split those guys up, and they'll just play the Dodgers. That is kind of what you're looking at. they're just it's just so many good players. They have a really good lineup, and it's going to be hard to beat them. Though again, we talked about those Blue Jays last year. They were tough. They were gritty. They were so close. They were a base running blunder away, from winning it. They were a crazy ball stuck in the wall, again, from possibly winning it. There were so many chances, but that's where you say, well, who did make the plays? Who did get the hits? And the Dodgers ultimately did that. Now, it was good for them that they were just able to say, oh, this ace pitcher, we're going to take you out, and then we'll put in this ace pitcher, and then take you out, and then put this ace pitcher. It does help to have that, right? And the Dodgers do have that. Going forward, it makes me, though, wonder. It makes me think now in free agency, I have to assume that every player that's a free agent is going to end up with the Los Angeles Dodgers. How do you not assume that? Unless something changes in the offseason. Like we feel like there may be a lockout or some, I don't know if it's strike, lockout, whatever you want to call it, due to basically the Kyle Tucker signing. That will there be a salary cap? Will there be changes to how they do revenue sharing, how everything operates, what is going to happen? I'm sure there are some owners and teams that would like that. I know the players just want to get paid the most money possible, which I can't blame them there. I do the same thing. So I don't know what that means, but I do know that now looking forward, I worry the Braves, again, back to that extension with Acuna. If they don't, then I'm like, well, he'll be a Dodger. Right? I mean, what's going to stop them from signing him to a huge deal and just defer? Now, I'm hoping the Braves extend Acuna kind of like Cleveland did Jose Ramirez. Kind of let's all meet together in the middle, kind of like Vlad and the Blue Jays. The Braves are not known for paying people, so I will not hold my breath. They like to be cheap. They like to get guys on the cheap. Okay. And let's see who else is out there. Let's see, Acuna could be a name in the future that I think the Dodgers get. I think they could make a deal for Paul Skeens. Then maybe they sign Tariq Skubal, etc. Whoever, plug in whatever the big free agent is every year for the next 5 years, and I just say the Dodgers will sign them. I'm not holding out anything, hope that other teams can swoop in and change their mind. You're going to have to get players like a Jose Ramirez who say, I'm just going to stay with Cleveland. Let's get a deal done. All right? You got to get guys like that. Or, again, the teams are going to have to start doing the same thing. You're going to have to play by the same rules. And if you don't, you're going to end up just doing this every year. And every year it's the Dodgers versus the world. But there are other teams that could contend next year. There are players who could maybe outplay these Dodgers, and we shall see who they are coming up. All right, so my predictions for the season. I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it sweet. I only want to get into what teams I believe will make it to the playoffs and then who have the possibility to win the MVP, which is a really tough task these days. So I'm looking at the standings of last year. I'm looking at what teams got better, worse, vice versa, whatever the case may be here. So I'm starting the American League. I've gone back and forth. I talk about these teams who were contenders last year out of nowhere. Do they return to that? Do they take a step back? Do other teams make the jump? Who do I believe in? Who do I not believe in? And this is, of course, really early. The season hasn't even happened. Some of this is hot takey, right? It's kind of a hot take, I guess, because you're going to be like, okay, well, you're picking this team. That's like, why would you pick that team? Why would you not pick so-and-so and so-and-so? Okay. I am a fair man, trust me, but you will see that in my picks. So in the American League, I'm not saying who's winning the division. I'm just saying these are the teams that will be the 3 division winners and the 3 wild cards. Returning to the playoffs from last year, I expect those Toronto Blue Jays to return for many reasons. You got to have pitching, and they still have arms, whether you believe in them or not. Some of them are aged. Some of them are coming off injury. Can they return? But I think their winning ways will return because you got to have arms, and they do have arms. They picked up Dylan Cease. They still have Kevin Gausman. They have Shane Bieber. They brought back Max Scherzer. They still have Trey Savage. I think he got that, experience, in the playoffs. Again, they still have Kirk at catcher, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Ernie Clement. They added Akamoto. Who else are we adding here? Who else do we got? Varsho, Straw, Springer, Santander. They got nothing out of him. Right? He got hurt, and he wasn't even good when he played. Addison Barger become a beast of a slugger during the playoffs. I do think the Blue Jays make it back. That is one thing for sure. I think the Yankees make it back. I know I've been down on them. I picked them as losers in free agency. But again, in hindsight, they do have 3 quality starters. They still have all their big hitters. I think they'll make a few moves, probably here and there, tweaks. I do think they return. Again, just because, right? I don't see the Red Sox. Tigers, they will return to the playoffs. They have Skubal. I think they're going to be right there. They're bringing back Verlander, another arm. I mean, again, aged arm. Can he give you something? Yes. They just seem to battle. So I think they'll be right back there winning I actually think they will win the Central because I've got other teams making the wild card. And it's really a coin flip. You really coin flip. I mean, Detroit, Cleveland last year was 1 game. Yankees, Blue Jays were tied. Seattle beat Houston by 3 for the division. And I know I'm down on Boston, and Kansas City was right there. So I think other teams, though, make jumps. And again, one of those teams I talked about were the Baltimore Orioles. Again, everything I talked about before, adding Pete Alonso, getting back on track, young stars breaking out. I think the Orioles will be that squeaking in last wild card team, something like that. The other team to squeak in, be a wild card, the Texas Rangers. Again, new manager, got some new players, making moves, veterans, still have their core. I think they'll be right there, wild card team. Another team returning. They missed out last year. They're normally a staple, and I think they will make a step back in, and that's the Houston Astros. Now, what does that mean for me? It means that I didn't pick the Seattle Mariners. I picked them to step back. I picked Cleveland to step back. Probably just miss out, really and truthfully. And this is just a gut hunch of a feeling that I have here making my picks. You got to pick someone. This is who I'm rolling with in the American League. As for the National League, again, with last year the playoffs were the Phillies, the Brewers, Cubs, Reds, Dodgers, Padres. Okay? I have 5 of those teams returning, 1 replacing another. And none of these teams include my Atlanta Braves. And I say that because I don't think they've done enough to make me believe that they can jump back in it, right? I believe in Walt Weiss. I believe in the players, Acuna, Riley, Olsen, Albies, Harris, Drake Baldwin coming off a Rookie of the Year. I just don't know about the pitching staff. We're still betting on Chris Sale to get younger and stay healthy on a regular basis. We are now expecting Spencer Strider to return to his dominant form, which could happen. Both of them could still be great pitchers this season. It's the pitchers really after that really worry me. That they are staying healthy or they are, giving you quality innings that you need. I just don't think with that and a Profar suspension, I think there's just a few holes. Hopefully they surprise me. But the teams that I did pick are the Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets out of the East. So the Mets did all the spending. I'm going to roll with them. And, I know that's blasphemy, but I'm going to pick them. The Phillies are always there. I don't think they're going to lose much ground. But yeah, I think that those two teams come out of the East. And then I talk about the Chicago Cubs. I think they return. They add Alex Bregman. They'll be right there. They're up and coming. A staple for the Central and playoffs, though they will never make it to the World Series, I don't believe, are the Milwaukee Brewers. Again, they're kind of boring. I mean, sometimes to me they're boring. Now they lost Peralta, so maybe they don't. I don't know, but I'm still picking them because for some reason they just always find themselves there. Obviously, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the super team, and then of course, lastly, the San Diego Padres, who are fun to watch. And they just can't get over the hump. But I still feel like they will be right there in it again this season. And if I had to guess and you say, who's going to the World Series? It's a repeat of one of the last two World Series. It's going to be a repeat of last year. I believe right now, I just go on my gut, Toronto Blue Jays versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Next, though, I'm going to get into the MVP race. This is going to be really short and sweet. This is going to be like the easiest thing ever. I'll give you some names who could contend, but it's going to be, again, there's nobody in baseball right now, I believe, that can overtake Aaron Judge or Shohei Ohtani for MVP. If these guys play a full year, they put up incredible numbers, insane numbers. Ohtani will be pitching as well this year. What if he's like Cy Young level pitching, right? And 50 home runs. There's no way he doesn't win the MVP. Other names I think will contend. I do believe Acuna will return to MVP level. Juan Soto will be right there. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I believe, will have an even better year than he's been having in the past. One guy I don't expect to be back there is Cal Raleigh. I think that was a anomaly of a season. It was unbelievable. He's a great player, but I do think he comes back to real life of, he still bats 250 but hits 30 home runs and has about 80 to 100 RBIs. I do think that will happen. But again, I think this is like right now we are living in the world where it is three things that are going to happen right now in life. That is death, taxes, and Judge and Ohtani will be MVP. And as for that, this is another episode of Fanatically Speaking. You can listen to the show on all podcast outlets. It's everywhere. Whatever podcasts are, you can listen to it on there. Follow the show on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can even listen to the show, back to listening, on YouTube. You can't watch it, no video, but you can listen to the show. Any device that you have, as I say, just tap that app. You see the green, the white, the pink, and black Fanatically Speaking logo. Click on it, listen. Go listen to past episodes. If you haven't, check them out. There's some still content out there that's relevant. It's not old and aged and dated. It's all good stuff. Even when Log Off was on the show, go listen to it. But for now, you only get me. You get Kent, Fanatically Speaking. And as for this episode, I am out.